Well, here it is September in Texas, and it's getting close to ragweed season. Ragweed is probably the #2 cause of allergies, with mold being #1. But surprisingly, the cure for ragweed allergies is ragweed itself. Now, I'm standing out here in our field, and we have some fine leaf ragweed. There's hundreds of species of ragweed, but the two main categories is the fine leaf, which this is, and a large leaf, which I will show you later. Now, the herbalist Seven Song and even Susan Weed considers ragweed to be the cure for ragweed allergies. So I'm going to harvest this. I want to get it before the flowers open, so this is the perfect time. There's plenty of it, so I don't have to worry about taking too much. I'm wanting the top growth, before a few of the leaves and some of the flowers. Now, the Latin name for ragweed is ambrosia, and you may be thinking someone had a sense of humor. But our ancient ancestors actually did harvest ragweed as food. Now let's go head back for my herb shop, or as my husband calls it, my witch's brewing room, and let's make a ragweed glycerin tincture. Okay, now here is some large leaf ragweed that grows on my property. Now wherever you live, it might be much larger leaves, but this is what I have.
Glycerite. The traditional method of making an herb tinctures takes 2 to 4 weeks, whether it be with alcohol or glycerin. But what if you need it now? This modern method, called a sealed simmered glycerite, is ready in 1 day. I'm fortunate enough, my husband has built me an herb room to process my herb medicine and to teach herb classes here on our farm. He calls it my WBR room, Witch's Brewing Room. Let's get started with the supplies that we will need. Okay, now what are we going to need? Well, of course, we need our fresh ragweed we just brought in from the field. Then we're going to need food-grade vegetable glycerin. Now, you want to make sure it says vegetable glycerin and that it says food grade. Now, Star West also makes a food grade vegetable glycerin that you can get in various sizes. What you don't want is go to the drugstore and get this glycerin in the little brown bottles. On the back it says, "Caution, contact Poison Control Center if you accidentally ingest this." So just make sure you have the right kind of glycerin. Now, you're also going to need distilled water. Distilled water has been processed to remove your minerals, your chemicals, any other impurities, and it becomes an empty water. An empty water is better able to take up the properties from the herbs that you are trying to extract. Now, depending on how much you need a water bath canner or a deep pan with a steam basket or a rack. Now, you also need canning jars. If you're using a water bath canner, you can use your quart jars and your pint jars. If you're using the deep pan with the lid, you're going to need to stick with your smaller jars because you want the water to come all the way up to the top. Now, you need a mixing container with a spoon. You need funnels. You need a funnel for when you get ready to strain your tincture, and you need a funnel that will fit into your bottle when you get ready to store your tincture that you have just made. Now, you also need a jar lifter. When you're dealing with hot boiling water, scorching hot jars, this is a must. Now, you need a chopping board and knife. You also need a measuring cup of some sort. And you need a strainer. Now, I love these reusable coffee filters. Now, traditionally, herbalists used either cheesecloth or muslin bag. Now, you need, like I mentioned before, the dark colored bottles to store it in. And you also need some way to mark your jar. I love the painter's tape with a marker. These stick to your jar, stay there till you're ready to remove them, and then they come off really easy. If you decide to get just your regular labels, if you get the labels that are made for file folders, they will not stay on your jars. You need to get the labels that are made for jars. Now you also need your heat source. I really like this New Wave cooktop. Of course, I don't have a full kitchen here in my herb room, so this easily plugs in. I don't have to worry about messing up the stove in my kitchen. It brings the water up to a boil really, really fast. It's easy to control the heat. Okay, now we're ready to get started making our ragweed glycerite. Okay, we're going to take our ragweed. We're going to pull off these stems. We're going to strip it from the stem, and on these tender tops, just kind of pull them off. And then we're going to chop them up. Now, the finer we chop the herbs, the better the solvent will be able to extract the properties, because it will be exposed to more surface. And the next thing we have to do is dilute our glycerin with water. Now, when you're using fresh herbs, the ratio is 7 parts glycerin to 3 parts distilled water. Now, a part can be anything you want it to be. I've used a 1/3 measuring cup. So you measure 1/3, you measure 7 parts glycerin, and then you're going to measure 3 parts of the distilled water. And then you're going to stir it really, really well. I like to stir it for at least 2 minutes to make sure it's really stirred well. Now we have our jar of chopped ragweed. I'm going to pour that in. I'm using a spoon to make sure I get out all the air bubbles. And I'm going to go up to 1/4 inch from the top, because I want to have head space. Top it with my lid, and I'm ready to put it in the water bath counter. I'm going to fill it to the top with water. And I'm ready to put the lid on. Start my New Wave cookstop. I want maximum sear. That's going to bring it up to boiling the very quickest. Now, I have leftover glycerin water. I'm going to pour it into a jar, and I'm going to mark it glycerin 70-30, so I know this is 7 parts glycerin and 3 parts distilled water. And I'm going to store this in the refrigerator. Now, once this comes to a boil, I'm going to let it boil for 15 minutes. It has to be a full rolling boil. Now, once it has done that, I'm going to bring my jars up. I'm going to use my jar lifter. to set them out. And once they have cooled off enough that I can touch them, I'm going to strain them. I have my measuring cup here, a funnel, and the strainer. Probably take a towel and kind of wipe some of the water off. The jars will kind of seal, so you might need to get a spoon or a can opener to unseal it. You can kind of mash on this to get it all out, or you can let it set all day and strain. And then you're ready to pour it into your bottle. Now I like to store my tinctures in a larger bottle and then pour a small amount into a smaller bottle for my own personal use. And a glycerin tincture is not as strong as an alcohol tincture. So alcohol tinctures are taken by the drops, and glycerin tinctures are taken by the spoonful or the dropperful. To combat a runny nose, itchy water eyes, take a dropperful. Wait 1 hour. If you still have the symptoms, take another dropperful. If this does work for you, take whenever the symptoms return. Now I've got my bottle. I'm going to mark it. It says fresh ragweed glycerin. This is September of 18. Now on these other jars, if I'm not quite ready to strain them just yet, I will take my painter's tape once again, mark them with ragweed glycerin, put the date on them, and then when I get ready to strain them and bottle them up, I know what they are. So thank you, and y'all come back.